All right, what's up, everyone? It's Zach, and I'm joined today with a special guest, Connor Cole. Connor, how are you doing today, man?
I am doing well. I appreciate you
Good.
having me on.
Yeah, thanks for joining. I appreciate it. So,
Yeah.
Connor is a good friend of mine, been someone that I've known pretty much all my life, and a lot of your background and where I kind of even met you is through sports, and I know that you played college soccer, you're a college athlete, and then even kind of pursuing professional athletics, and now kind of just in the business world. But do you mind just kind of talking a little bit about who you are, your background a little bit too?
Yeah, absolutely. So, as Zach mentioned, we met back in elementary school in the YMCA basketball days. Um, so we both grew up playing sports, and that's kind of where we first connected. Um, I went on to I played three sports in high school. So I played soccer, basketball, and golf. Um, Went on to pursue, as Zach mentioned, college or soccer in college. I played for Northwood University. Um, I was a 2-year captain there, all GLIAC member, which for those of you who don't know is kind of like the Division Two version of the Big Ten. Our team liked to joke that it was the dumbed down version of it, but still a great honor. So I was happy about
Yeah.
that. And then tried to pursue professionally. Entered into the MLS draft. Entered into MLS Combine. Did not go well for me. Did not perform. Played semi-professional for about 2 years, and then due to things, not progressing as I would have liked, I had some severe, not severe, but quite a few concussions, and I
Mm.
was worried about my long term health. As you see a lot of these athletes with multiple head injuries once they start to age, it has quite the effect on them. So decided to give it up, and now am in the business world, as Zach mentioned.
Awesome. Yeah. And wow, hearing YMCA basketball, that takes me back. That had to have been what, like 12, 12
Yeah,
years ago or something at this
if
point.
not more. I mean,
Yeah,
those were some fun times, though.
they were. We had the best of times.
Yeah, we had a
And
good team too.
we did, yeah. I mean, I think we might have been maybe a little older than some other teams, but
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure
well,
we
whatever it
dominated like
takes to
every
win,
game.
right?
Right? Exactly. But I mean, going back to those days, I think growing up, both of us being people involved with sports, we always had that dream of, playing at the next level and then the next level and so on and so forth. So, I mean,
Hmm.
like, what was it like for you? I mean, was it like when you were our age then, were you like dreaming of playing like in college and then and like even further than that?
Yeah, I mean that was, as you said, I think it was every kid's dream that
Yeah.
had some sort of an athlete in them. I mean, you could go into an elementary school class in those days and say, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" 90% of the kids are going to say professional athletes.
Right.
So, that was always a goal of mine. I actually, growing up, basketball was always my favorite sport. I wanted to play that in college and play that professionally. And then, when I got to high school, I was still one of the better players on my high school team, but
Right.
I wasn't at the same level as I was at soccer. So, and I love soccer as well. So when I had the opportunity to pursue that in college, I had a couple D1 offers, a couple D2, a couple D3. Um, Settled on Northwood. I'd like to say I fully committed, but in reality, Northwood was a good business school, and I knew I needed a backup.
Right.
So the education definitely played a role into it. Yeah, so then I got the opportunity to play in college. It was, a very high level. Um, I did extremely well, which was, a blessing.
Yeah.
I mean, jumping from high school to college was something that I was not ready for. But I managed. I was definitely nervous going in. And then once I got done with college, I had kind of proven myself as, one of the more dominant players in my league, as well as, the region, and
Yeah.
didn't get a ton of attention on the national scale, but I fully believed in myself to do it. Didn't work out, but I wouldn't go back and change anything uh, if I could. So I'm very happy with my experience, and it was something not a lot of people get to do, and I'm
Right.
extremely grateful that I had the opportunity, and loved every second of it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And then I know you said, you weren't necessarily ready or the transition from high school to college. What was so challenging about it, or what was like the most difficult part for you?
Well, I think a lot of people don't realize, going, if you play in high school, you have maybe three, four, five kids on the team that, are kind of at that next level from everyone else.
Right.
Sometimes it might be one, sometimes you might have a really good team where it's five.
Okay.
But when you go to the next level, the entire team and every team you play against is that number one and two kid from the high school team. So everyone
Mm.
goes in being at the top of their, most of the time it's even the top of their league, or their conference or whatever it may be. And when you get to college, every single person is that good, if not better. So
Yeah.
it's going from being, this big fish in this small pond to everyone doing that and trying to transition into a league where, you're being looked up at as this, oh my God, he's the best player I've ever seen, to, oh my
Right.
God, he's just like everyone else, because everyone comes from all over because they got the same opportunity you did because they were at the top of their respective place. So I think it's just tough going from, being looked at as this, standout superstar to just being another player, really. So especially, I had 16 kids that came over from England just to play, so on my team.
Oh wow.
So, and that's a whole different world.
Yeah.
Obviously European soccer is huge. And so it's just a kind of a, you kind of have an epiphany like, wow, I was not ready for this. Everyone's so good.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like cool that you're playing with top athletes
Mm-hmm.
in your perspective sport, where it's like everywhere you look, there's so much talent. But then, yeah, it's like that transition of like now I'm kind of just one of many. I'm not like the player, the go-to anymore. You have to kind of learn to play with people that are at your level and your caliber and play against them on a regular basis.
Yep. Yep. And so I'll tell you kind of a funny story that I can tell now because I'm no
Yeah.
longer playing with him.
Okay.
In college, it was an English guy. Um, he was 2 years older than me, so I played with him for 2 years.
Okay.
And he was playing over in England, and he was on track to, I mean, the real big time, Premier League, everything. I mean, he
Okay.
was on track, and I'm not going to name names because I don't want to slander him at all, but
Right.
he ended up losing everything for a cocaine addiction over there.
Wow.
So ended up getting clean, coming over here, and I ended up playing with him. But it's people like that where he was at the top of the top of the top, and to be playing with
Yeah.
kids like that, I mean, I wish he wouldn't have done that because he had such a promising future, but he ended up still being
Right.
one of the, best players in the country for Division II. So, I mean, it's just, you never know what you're going to get into with college. It's just so much more from recruiting and just outreach than high school. So it's an and he was a crazy guy, but great player, great player.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's wild. I mean, and like you said, you just never know. And like when you're in high school and stuff, like yeah, you can go to, maybe like a prep school, or you can
Mm-hmm.
move to go to a better, athletic,
Yep.
school. But in college, like you have international students, you have people from all over the
Yep.
world trying to, be the best at what they do. So
Yeah.
it's a
Yes.
lot more exposure.
Yep. And Division II and NAIA. So I was Division II. I think I mentioned that, but
Hmm.
NAIA Division III. They have less and less um, international regulations than Division One in terms of soccer. So, funny
Okay.
enough, the lower level, well, not lower level, but as you go down from Division One to Division Two to NAIA, they'll
Hmm.
have more and more international players, which a lot of times, there are NAIA teams that were better than us, that were better than Division One teams because they had all these unknown players from countries like Africa, Spain, Brazil, from all over that didn't have the same exposure and the same resources to get over here, and were kind of scooped up by teams that you know were looking for those people that had been kind of picked over by the Division One team. So it's kind of an interesting dynamic with the international play for soccer for sure.
So you're mentioning that like there's different regulations, like meaning just like it's almost like easier for international players to come over and
Yeah,
play.
so each team has a like kind of I don't know the word, maybe quota of
Okay.
a certain number of in-state and American players and international players that they're allowed to give out to. So the
Oh,
lower you
okay.
go, they're allowed to have more international players on their roster. in layman's terms, and there's all sorts of fine print around it, but that's kind of
Right.
the basic outline of it.
I had no idea about
I
that.
didn't either until I
That's
got there. Yep.
I feel like that's one of those things you just don't know about
Oh yeah.
or realize. And when you hear it, you're like, wow, that is very interesting.
Mm-hmm. So it was an
Wow.
interesting
Okay.
ride.
Yeah, definitely. But I mean, I'm glad that, you had the experience and you enjoyed it. And I mean, from just someone that's known you since, playing all these sports, outside at recess in
Oh
elementary
yeah.
school, it's cool to see, someone that and, have so much respect for just doing so great at the next level and, kind of living vicariously through you
Yeah.
a little bit
Well,
when
I
I see you
appreciate it.
crushing it. Yeah, of
Yep.
course.
It was fun.
Good. Yeah. So I know you mentioned after college, you kind of, went into pursuing professional soccer,
Mm-hmm.
and you said unfortunately it didn't go as well as you would have hoped. I mean, what was that kind of like? I mean, when I've known you, throughout your life, you've always been the top athlete
Mm-hmm.
in most anything you do, and in college, it sounds like you had a lot of great success too. So, like, what was that like? Kind of struggling a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, it was not something I was expecting.
Yeah.
So I decided. I think it was my senior year. I had one coach. He had coached over in England, um, and he had coached at some of the bigger clubs over there, and they're like not youth academies, but um, like kind of their development programs. And he had kind of pulled me aside and said, "Hey, I've coached some of the best players in the world, and I think based on your ability, you can keep up with any of them." So that's kind of when I decided, like, hey, this might actually be an option. If I can make a living out of this, this would be, a dream come true. You know,
Yeah.
8-year-old me would be very proud and would be very
Right.
pissed if I did not pursue it.
Right.
um, so I put together a highlight tape, an entrance for the MLS Combine. I was a broke college student, so I offered our
Yeah.
team photographer and videographer a night of free drinks at the bar if she would put it together for me, and she very willingly obliged. So that was super nice of her. Still keep in touch, and she's awesome.
Good.
Yep. So she did it. Still on YouTube if anyone wants to watch it. Maybe give me some more views. No, I'm kidding. Um, but I knew the guy that was putting on the Midwest Combine that was actually luckily in Michigan. Reached out to
Okay.
him, and he said, "Yeah, just make sure you get your highlight tape in." And I missed the date by one day to get it in. It wasn't done.
Oh wow.
So
Okay.
wasn't able to go to the combine. Did a couple of private trainings and tryouts. Got some minor attention. Had an offer from a team. It was not MLS, but a step below, out in New Mexico, and didn't want to do that. I wasn't ready to make that move, so I
Okay.
did some semi-pro over here in Michigan, and eventually just kind of gave it up. I don't, you know, I, my whole heart and soul wasn't in it at the end, so that's kind of where it came crashing down. But it was a great ride, and I'm happy with where I
Yeah.
am. So I'm not regretful, but I gave it a shot, and that's all I can ask for.
Exactly. I mean, I think that's kind of like the key takeaway here. Like you never know. You got to put yourself out there sometimes, and it doesn't always go according to plan or what you wanted. But I love hearing you say that like there's no regrets or
Yeah,
anything. Like you're happy where you landed and everything like that. So
yeah,
it's
yeah. I mean,
good.
I learned a ton, not only about life but myself, and
Yeah.
I wasn't personally ready to commit to that, and I thought I was, but looking back, I think I kind of fell out of love with the game too. I think I was a little burned out,
Yeah.
but it's been fun. I still play recreational, so yep.
Yeah, so I know you said like during the process and just probably just being a, high level athlete for a lot of, your adult life, if you will, starting like with college. You said you've learned a lot about life. You learned kind of just a lot about yourself. What would you say would be like something, maybe the biggest thing that you learned or the biggest takeaway from the experience?
That's a good question. That's a great question. Um, I think the biggest thing for me was patience.
Okay.
Um, coming in, I was a pretty highly regarded recruit.
Yeah.
I had some of the older guys within the first 2 days of showing up saying like, the coach told us you were coming in to expect some of us to lose playing time. whatever it may be. And I
Mhm.
came in as a center mid, kind of an offensive player, and
Yep.
I started off slowly. I will didn't start. It was probably the fifth game of my freshman year. Our left back, for those who don't know soccer, left side of the defense, got injured,
Hmm.
and we were down in Indianapolis playing Indianapolis University, and coach said, "Freshman who wants to play defense? Never played defense in my life." And I said, "I do," just because I wanted to play. I didn't
Yeah.
come there to sit on the bench, and my
Right.
play hadn't deserved any playing time so far in practice and games. So I was more mad at myself, but I was like, if I get
Yeah.
a chance, I'm going in. So I played that game at left back and played the rest of my career at defense. But,
Yeah.
learning, and I was so antsy to move forward and get, I kept begging to play in the midfield, whatever chance I got. And even the first 5 games, I was like, I need to get in the game, need to get in the game. But if you just, I finally took a step back and was like, I may be better at defense than I am at midfield. So pursued the career there. And once I kind of sat back and like really looked at things, be patient with where I'm at, things will work itself out. And they did. And I'm glad I was able to recognize that I just needed to wait and see, how things played out. Cause I think it was best case scenario realistically.
Definitely. And I think, we live in a world where we all get caught up in trying to get to places the
Yep.
quickest, or, just that kind of instant gratification, or I want it now. I want to be there now. But I like that, like the idea of patience and just kind of like, it is maybe silly as it sounds, trust the
Yeah.
process, like trust that it's going to work out how it's supposed to. And it sounds like it did for you,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe in ways that you never
Yeah.
expected, and for the better.
And I think that's kind of going off topic here, but I think a lot of that's kind of with the social media. With you
Yeah.
see people that are just, and a lot of times it's not true, sometimes it is, but your friends and these kids you grew up with in high school and childhood that are living these lavish and extravagant lives, and you kind
Hmm.
of are like, I need this, I need this, I need this. But I think everyone lives on their own timeline, and I think being
Yeah.
patient, waiting for your opportunity, and kind of dealing with life as it comes to you is a lot more important than trying to live up to some crazy expectations that either you put on yourself based on outside
Yeah.
pressures or other people put on you. So I think a lot of that translates into today's world too.
Definitely agree with you on that. And I think that that's actually a good kind of segue to what I was thinking about next, like something that, you and I have talked about just off the record
Mm-hmm.
personally is just kind of like mental health.
Yep.
And, you see that, with social media, kind of like you said, that can have a toll on our mental health.
Absolutely.
Being a college athlete can, have a toll on our mental health. I think about like the most recent example in the NCAA tournament, the kid on Ohio State who, missed a couple shots or free throws or whatever and was getting like death
Yep.
threats, like tweeted at him and stuff. It's like, so there's so much that goes
Mm-hmm.
into mental health. And I mean, you think about like athletes specifically. And I mean, I remember growing up, not playing at the high levels you did, but just even like,
Oh yeah.
you don't show kind of like any emotion, or you don't, negative emotion, or you don't say, you might be anxious for a game or anything.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, do you mind kind of talking about mental health a little bit from like an athlete's perspective, or
Yeah.
maybe
No,
just
absolutely.
what your take on it
Yeah.
is?
So I know, like you said, you and I have kind of talked about this off the books.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't mind sharing. I've talked to you about it. I struggled with mental health. Um,
Hmm.
Really, it wasn't until I guess I didn't struggle badly until, or at least I didn't recognize I was struggling until after college. But there's a lot of pressure, even at the Division II level, where it wasn't
Hmm.
necessarily fan pressure. We got fans, but not like filling up stadiums by any means.
Right.
So, but for example, it's the story at Indianapolis. I was about to go in, and our assistant
Hmm.
coach was kind of a jerk, but he was an English guy. All our coaches were English, and they're a little bit more harsh than the American culture. And
Right.
right before I subbed in, he kind of pulled me aside and, excuse the language, but he said, I'll even do it in the accent. He's like, Connor, if you fuck this up, you will never touch the field again for the rest of your 4 years. And I mean, like, hearing that as an 18-year-old freshman going into your first game
Yeah.
ever, I mean, the pressures that are put on there, I can only imagine if I would have played poorly, what it would have done to me. I mean, I thank God
Yeah.
every day that I didn't, and I played very well in that game. But
Right.
I mean, just and that's he's constantly, the coaching staff, you get so much pressure put on you, especially people that come in with high expectations and, don't
Yeah.
transition as smoothly as expected. I saw kids on my team. We had kids that would quit maybe monthly. We would start off a season with
Wow.
35 kids, maybe 15 walk-ons. And half the walk-ons would be gone by halfway through the season because there's so much
Wow.
pressure. They're getting
Yeah.
constantly berated at practice, and there's really no holding back at that level. If you're not good enough, you're going to know you're not good enough, and the coaches are going to tell you. So
Right.
I can laugh about it, but it's it's tough on a lot of people, and I think a lot of
Yeah.
it, especially at the high level, like Ohio State, like you said. I mean, getting death threats for missing shots in a game is, I mean, they're even in college, you're just kids, like. So
Yeah.
I think it's very real, and I think no matter what you do, whether it be athletics, which just happens to be what I did, or in the business world from a boss or wherever it may be. Um, I think it's starting to come to light, but I think the pressures are pretty crazy.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, and I think, the pressure, kind of like you touched on, it can come from so many
Yep.
different places. It can come from coaches, bosses, it can come from
Parents.
yourself,
Yeah.
your parents, your family, your significant other, peers. You can have that pressure from everywhere. And I think, someone, whether you are, an athlete or, just successful in whatever you do, whatever that may be, I feel like you're always going to be your biggest critic. So when you have that pressure from others, or maybe even that doubt from others, that's when it kind of starts to eat you alive,
Hmm.
and like you kind of overthink it even more, and
Yep.
it can be a vicious cycle.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I, I just think the world right now is a very pressure filled place, and everyone's
It is,
kind of
yeah.
clawing to get to the top. And I just think there's a very, very competitive atmosphere out here or out there right now. Not always in a good way either.
Yeah.
So I think the sources of pressure and I think people are starting to crack. And I think
Hmm.
a little bit of why we're seeing so many mental health issues come to light recently is, and I think it's a good thing, but
Yeah.
I'm curious to see where it all leads to, because I think it's kind of growing exponentially. So I don't know what to expect, but having gone through it myself, it's scary. But
Yeah.
I guess,
No, I mean, it's a real
oh,
thing. It's a
absolutely.
real thing, right? And it's something that, yeah, I think, as time's going on and our generation, it's kind of coming more to light, having the conversations on mental health. But
Hmm.
I mean, even, you can still say like it, some people consider it taboo, or it
Yep.
just seems like, uncomfortable to talk about. And, that's why I have like a lot of respect for like Kevin Love, in the NBA, who like came out with his piece about having, panic attacks and anxiety, and just like seeing like, wow, that's someone making millions playing
Yep.
this professional athlete, and they're human, right? We're all human
Yeah.
at the end of the day. We all have these things going on, and just kind of normalizing that, pressures, expectation, just life in general. Life's hard,
Oh,
right?
you're telling me.
Yeah. So, I mean, and something that you said, Connor, was that like it was kind of after college is when maybe you were, tuning more into your own mental
Hmm.
health. Maybe for someone our age, or maybe even a little younger, still in college, like, is there anything you would say that would maybe help that individual recognize or realize that maybe they are having some struggles?
Yeah. I mean, so for me personally, I had a. It's kind of hard. I had more physical anxiety than anything.
Hmm.
So mentally, I didn't recognize it. I wasn't someone that was sad. I wasn't someone that was constantly worrying about life around me. But um,
Right.
mine kind of stemmed from. So my first ever panic attack was about 2 months after I watched my dad have a pretty severe heart attack. Um,
Hmm.
and he was in the hospital. Ended up having a sextuple bypass. Very thankful he's happy. He's healthy now. So, but
Yeah.
just it was kind of a traumatic experience for me.
Right.
I watched him. I'm not going to go into detail about his symptoms, but people know what heart attack symptoms are
Right.
for the most part. So, um, I was actually at work one day, and I, started to get some chest pain. I think it was maybe
Hmm.
indigestion or something minor, right? And
Yep.
the brain's a powerful thing, and I kind of manifested a mental heart attack, and I put myself through all the symptoms that I
Yeah.
saw him have without realizing it. I left work, ended up passing out while I was driving, crashed my car, and not crashed, but I drove off the road into the median on the highway.
Yeah.
Called 911, got an EKG on my heart, and that's kind of where it started. And I realized that the brain is extremely powerful. Um,
Yeah.
Anxiety, panic, depression, things like that.
Hmm.
There are warning signs, and I think being able to recognize them, and
Yeah.
a lot of people say like I'm too mentally strong, that'll never happen to me, like, which
Right.
I don't like to admit, but that was me. I mean, I was one of those people that said, "Oh, that's not real. Like people are just sad, or people are just
Yeah.
worried over nothing." But the brain can do a lot of crazy things, whether you want it to or not. And I think
Hmm.
one, recognizing it early and being open to the fact that this could happen to me, and then another thing, just knowing that there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Um,
Yeah.
I think is the key, because as bad as it gets, and as hopeless as it may seem, you can talk to anybody who's gone through it and made it through, and they will tell you there is a light, and looking back, they wish they would have seen the light. So I think it's very important for people to know that you can get through it. There's a lot of help out there, and don't be afraid to take it.
Yeah. I love that. I mean, it's incredible to hear. And, just like I said, just thinking back to our personal, connections and everything, I've always known you as someone really smart guy, academically, really great athlete, really nice guy, just really awesome person. And just to see kind of like, you know, you're still human, like you still have these experiences, like even though you're, you know, playing successfully, in college and stuff like that, you still
Mm-hmm.
have the same kind of struggles or obstacles that anyone that age
Oh yeah.
faces, right? So, and to hear you talk about it, and even just like as your friend, to hear you kind of say like, maybe you didn't really buy much into it when you were younger, but now to understand it, like just seeing that personal growth. I mean, like that makes me proud to call you a friend, and just to see, how far you've made it and in your journey in life. And, I know that there's a lot more that you're going to learn and discover
Yeah,
along the
no,
way.
and I appreciate that. It means a lot. And I think,
Yeah.
kind of like you said, it's hard for people that haven't gone through it to really know. So
Yeah.
I think, if people downplay it, I just, most likely they haven't gone through it, haven't had any of those
Right.
those mental struggles that most people have. So, um, I would definitely say try to find people that have. I know you and I have
Yeah.
both had our own struggles. I'm sorry if you didn't want to
Yeah.
bring yours up,
Oh
but
no.
we've talked about it on the side, and I think just having people that
Yeah.
can relate to you is huge as well. And you, like I said,
Exactly.
you being someone, I mean, you are one of the kindest, most caring people I've ever met, and knowing that you've gone through it and you're struggling while still making so many positive impacts on other people is, I mean, it's the kind of both sides of the spectrum. You have this one of these people that seems like their whole life is about being positive, helping others,
Hmm.
doing whatever you can for your friends, family, even strangers, to be struggling on their
Yeah.
own and not showing it. And someone like me who, like you said, is living a very successful athletic career, and you know doing things that you wouldn't think like, oh, he's probably struggling, his life sucks. It can happen to
Right.
anyone on any side of the spectrum, and
Again.
anything. And I think to being cognizant of that is definitely important for just to help others that are going through it.
Definitely. No, I totally agree. And, just to re-emphasize something you said, Connor, like it's something we all experience, and there's people out there to talk to, whether that's, opening up to friends, family members, or professionals, mental health professionals. And there's no shame, there's nothing wrong with, talking about what we have going on in our lives. So, to anyone that's listening, if you experience any of these kind of struggles, or you think maybe you might, don't be afraid to open up about it to someone. It can be tough, it can definitely be tough and intimidating to do so, but there's people out there that can help you and provide resources, or just there's people in your corner. And I feel like during these times we maybe feel like we're alone, or no one will understand what we're going through, but I promise there are people that care, and that can help out.
Absolutely. And the other thing is everyone's case is different. Everyone does different
Yep.
things, and whether someone can directly
Yep.
relate or not isn't as important as someone that has gone through struggles on their own and can at least understand that
Exactly.
it is real, and
Hmm.
it's you're not overplaying it, and just someone that can even be an ear to listen is very important.
Right.
So I think reaching out, some people aren't comfortable with it, and that's okay. But if you are, I think it's talking to people about it helped me a lot. So I would encourage whoever else
Definitely.
feels comfortable with it to do it as well.
Definitely. Definitely. So, we've talked about a lot of good stuff, Connor, and I know that kind of you're present, you're in the business world, and I know off the record we've talked about, some of your other passions and things that you love to do, like
Mm-hmm.
golf, for example. I mean, maybe more so on a personal note, like what's in store for Connor Cole? What's coming up? Do you have any big goals maybe for this year or just in general that you're going after, anything like that?
Um, in terms of goals, I don't see um, anything huge. Obviously, I want to be successful. I want to
Hmm.
do well at my job. I've been there now for about a year, just over year and 2 months, 3 months. So I'm
Okay.
finally starting to kind of gather myself and kind of get moving here. So I'm happy with that. As you mentioned, golf. I golf 7 days a week, except for today. It's like 30 degrees out, which sucks. But
Yeah.
um, every day that's been warm enough this year, I've played. It is my all-time passion in life. Um, I would not give it up for anything. So my summer will consist of working and then straight to the golf course every day. So
Okay.
um, I mean, of course, my number one goal, more important than working anything, is to play well on the golf course. No questions.
Yeah, there we go.
But other than that, I actually have the opportunity. I'm going in May to play Pine Valley, which is for the last 32 years has been the number one golf course in the world. It's a private
Wow.
course,
Okay.
but my grandpa is friends with a member there. He's the majority owner of the Arnold Palmer Golf Academy and the golf course design company. Um, and I have played a few times with him when he's up at his house on Torch Lake. My grandparents live up there, and I've created kind of a friendship with him.
Hmm.
He's in his late 70s, but still, I mean, he still beats me easily. So that's a little frustrating. But so he's
Right.
invited myself and my brother and my grandpa to be his guest there. So that's going to be an
Nice.
experience of a lifetime. So
That's awesome.
my goal is it's also the second hardest course in the world. So my goal is to maybe break 100 there.
There you go. There you go. Yeah. I mean, it sounds like a good goal and an
Yeah.
awesome experience. And I think, something that we've kind of talked about, off the record a bit is just life's all about experiences and taking in those memories and, just being there when you can, being fully there and enjoying the moment. So make sure you, enjoy it, have fun, try to have a good game, but at the end of the day,
Yep.
it's all about the experience and saying that you can be there
Yeah,
and,
just
and
being
play,
there is
right?
enough for
So
me. I could shoot 1,000 and be happy to be on that course. So I'm really looking forward to it.
exactly. Awesome, awesome. Well, that sounds like a lot of fun and it sounds like a lot of good stuff. And I know you said, something that's important to you is you want to be successful. And, from knowing you since we were kids, collecting basketball cards to
Hmm.
now, I have no doubt that you'll continue on your path to success. And I know, whether it's in the business world, whether it's maybe something with golf or, whatever it might be, I know you're going to be making some big differences in the world and being successful wherever you
Well, I
go.
appreciate it. Hearing that from someone like you means a lot. I know I've talked to you about it, but just seeing the influence you've had on people and the effects you've had on people's lives, and just being so open with your life, whether it be on social media or to your friends and family, is it's been
Yeah.
pretty inspiring. So I appreciate everything you've done as well, whether you know it or not. I'm sure you've touched a lot more people's lives than you know, um, and I can't say enough good things. So hearing that from someone like you really really means a lot to me.
I appreciate
Yeah,
that.
of
Thank you,
course.
man. Is there anything that you want to leave the listeners with, or any last thoughts or words?
Um, Not really. I think what we talked about was a lot of it was pretty deep. So, I would encourage people
Yeah,
to, if something infect or infect affected you in a positive way or anything,
yeah,
um, I'm gonna shamelessly plug Zach here. I think if you talk to him, you're gonna, especially if you're struggling, he's a great resource to have. And I don't know if he's open to it or not, but I'm going to tell you that he probably is because he's that kind of
Yep.
person. I would encourage you to reach out to him. It's helped me a lot. He's a great influence to have. If you ever need kind of a pick me up, I would definitely say Zach is the guy to go to. And as well as me, if anyone knows me or wants to reach out to me, I'm more than happy to talk. Zach and I have had quite a few conversations just about life itself, and I think it's been pretty positive for both of us for the most part.
Yeah, I would definitely say our interactions have been positive, and exactly, I don't mind if anyone listening to this, if anything resonated with you, or you just want someone to chat with, you can always reach out to me anytime. And Connor, I know you mentioned that if people know you or want to connect,
Yep.
they can find you. Is there anywhere specific, like social media or anything that
Yeah, yeah,
they can reach
absolutely. I
out to
mean,
you at?
social media everywhere: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. Um, Most of it's just Connor Cole, all lowercase. I got in early, got the good names, so feel free to
There you
reach
go.
out if anyone wants to. I'm more than happy to talk to anyone.
Perfect. And I mean, I'll type it up in the description and everything, but it's Connor, Connor, and then Cole, Cole. And yeah, go, whether it's to follow his journey, connect, say hey, or, reconnect even. Connor's a great guy. I can't say enough great things about him. And I thank you so much, Connor, for your time today. And it was great
Yeah,
chatting with
absolutely.
you. And, I'm excited to see what the future
Yeah,
holds for both of
as am
us.
I, and I appreciate the opportunity. I appreciate the invite. It's actually been a lot of fun. So thank you again.
Awesome. Glad to hear it. Of course.
All
All right,
right,
man.
you
You take
too.
it easy.
Yep.
All
Bye.
right. Thanks. Bye.